Buonasera a tutti. Good evening, y'all. It is Thursday evening, just past 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll do it, August 14th, 2025.
August.
Love it.
Um, and I'm here as always, episode number 79. What's the scoop? I'm here as always with my co-host, Mr. Brandon Furtado. Brandon, how you doing, buddy?
Couldn't be better, Scoop. Couldn't be better. Well, one thing could be better, but we'll talk about that later.
We're about to get into that, and of course, I no longer will call him a guest because he is joining us more frequently going forward, and I'm very happy for that. I think we all agree that some of the best shows we've had recently have been with the unique Mr. Jay Cruger on with us, and he is here once again today. Jay, how are you doing, my longtime friend?
I am very, very passable, good sir. Don't be too sweet, man. Remember, I'm a diabetic.
And there you go. We're only a minute into the show, and we already have a perfect example of why this man is on the show again. But appreciate having you back on and having you on more going forward. And we are more permanently going forward going to be on Thursday evening, going to be running 7 p.m. Eastern time, and going to be doing this. I think it's going to really help. It's going to let you guys, once you guys jump off of the show, you can go and watch some Thursday night football for anybody who wants to do that, and hopefully be able to have a little more of an opportunity to kind of cover both what's happened this week in baseball and what's going to happen this weekend in baseball. Thursday is often a little bit of a carryover travel day in baseball, and I think this works out well. Kurt says, boys, scoops, I was going to call in to ask you guys a quick question. I don't know who you were going to call, but I mean,
Ghostbusters.
As soon as I said it, I heard that in my head, even though I've never seen Ghostbusters. Scoops, I was going to call in to ask you guys a question. Kurt, fire away. I mean, we've got, throw in one question, throw in 50 questions. We're all, I've had 2 cups of coffee today, so I'm all ready for whatever you can throw at me, as you can probably tell from the volume of my voice.
Sidebar, Scoop. Haven't seen Ghostbusters. And Brandon, before you got on, Scoop was telling me how he has not possessed a pair of headphones since 2022 or 2023. To the 17 intelligence agencies, any one of them who are listening, Scoop is a serial killer. Scoop is a serial killer.
I mean,
to add context to that real quick, I now own hearing aids, and they double with Bluetooth as headphones, so I do not need to now purchase headphones like I was going to. But yes, I did go about 2 years without owning a pair of headphones.
Yeah, but you also said that you don't need music when you travel.
No, I never said that. I never said that. That I just straight up did not say. I always listen to music when I travel on the plane or in the car or whatever.
Nowadays you can do it with the hearing aids. You can actually.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
And then when I'm in the car with my mom and we're like driving somewhere, like we just did a couple times in the last couple months, I just straight up play my music on the car loudspeaker thingy. So
you actually listen to your mom. Cool.
I don't even know how that's.
Sorry, Mom, if you're watching.
No, she'll be watching later, but she's also going to be very excited to see this group. I know she very much enjoyed our last episode with the 3 of us. So we're going to get right into it. We've got a lot to talk about with, of course, the team that Mr. Jay is representing on his shirt. I pointed the wrong way. But we're going to get into that. We are going to finally get into a little bit of talk as football season is wildly and fast approaching about not just our reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, but also the NFL kind of at large. So we're going to get in on that real quick. Well, I don't know about real quick. Real soon is what I should have said. And of course, for anybody out there who has any questions, comments, banter, or anything else, you know where to find us on our 5 channels. Looking forward to hearing from y'all. So, that being said, and as always, as we always say, there's always a last-minute addition, a little last-minute thing that gets thrown in there that we want to address at the beginning of every show, whatever it happens to be. This one is going to be particularly the Dallas Cowboys. Those who didn't see it this past week, owner of Dallas Cowboys, Mr. Jerry Jones, it was announced and revealed that he has recently been battling stage 4 cancer and recently beat stage 4 cancer, and just wanted to just acknowledge that and just say that Mr. Jerry Jones, for the rest of his life, I hope he is in good health. I hope that he is in peak condition, and whatever you feel, from a football standpoint, obviously, this is always greater than that by magnitudes. And just wanted to mention that. Congratulations to Jerry Jones for being able to accomplish that, and may he be blessed henceforth. And so that's just, I wanted to just say that. If someone wants to go after me, go ahead. But I wanted to mention that because that was some news that I think could have gotten more attention. And honestly, I saw it getting some attention and some reactions on social media that I thought were kind of disgusting. There were some people saying some not particularly kind things. And I just wanted to just kind of address or kind of bring that up on the show real quick. So if anyone wants to follow me, please feel free to jump in.
It's a real tough thing when anybody goes through it. I mean, regardless of if you like the man or hate him, it's tough to think about, just what he's going through, but obviously his family and friends around him that have been there, all for such a long time to see, one of their loved ones go through this. At the end of the day, it's we look at Jerry as larger than life because obviously he's owner of the Dallas Cowboys. He's had success in all those early years. Turned him into a basically a multimedia franchise. But it's great that he's able to just overcome something that not many come back from. So that's really just a testament to just kind of how strong-willed he is. I mean, hey, he should be. He's a Southern guy. They're built different down there. But it's really good to see that. Because honestly, the NFC East wouldn't be what it is without him. The Dallas Cowboys obviously wouldn't be where they are without him. I mean, regardless of where they are now, but how they even, how everybody knows them as, really America's team dominating the 90s, things like that. And kind of putting them on this pedestal of great sports franchises. So, the sports world in general, wouldn't be what it is without Jerry Jones. So glad he's still able to be here. Glad that he's able to beat that, and just it's good to see that he's been battling that for a long time. I think they said it was nearly a decade long that he had gone through it. So that's, I mean, most people that will go through something like that. The diagnosis is very short. So for you to battle that, for him to battle that for such a long time is even more incredible. So the fact that he's on the other side of it is good, and let's keep it that way. So.
Amen.
Good on Jerry Jones. That's
Amen.
That's what we want to hear. So that's important to all of us. So glad that he still can be here, and glad that we can still talk about him in the present tense. Glad that we can still have football discussions about him. So all that good stuff. So nothing but positives from this.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, buddy. And then Jay, I'm gonna kick it over to you if you've got anything to contribute to that.
Yeah, and I say, as a Christian myself, and as somebody who has both seen family members go through cancer, people who have survived cancer, and those who have lost to cancer, stage 4 ain't no joke. It's not a fun thing for the person going through it, and nor is it's a harrowing experience on members of the family, to say nothing, of course, of the person actually going through it. I have, and Scoop knows, and Brandon, I think I've told you even a little bit, I have my choice opinions about Jerry Jones. As a person, myself, and, your viewers can agree or disagree. I'm not going to have the political back and forth on it, of course, on this.
Right.
I have choice feelings about Jerry Jones when it came to the anthem protest, with him getting what I thought was overly involved in that. He's had his own history. I mean, we saw the pictures of him kind of protesting on the pro-segregation side as a school kid. I want to say that an experience like this, like the one he's describing, tends to give someone a different outlook on life, all life, to see how precious it is and how much we need to put into perspective what we spend our time on and what we put our energy in and how we want to be.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping that him having gone through this and having been public about it, first of all, I'm for a guy who has displayed as much, for lack of a better expression, machismo as he has as an owner. I view this as him kind of being vulnerable with the public and him trying to kind of impart the preciousness of life to the public. And I'm hoping that he himself is taking that lesson, and I'm hoping that he's, again, a new person because of it. I am very glad, as a person who values all human life, that he is still a live person because of that. Honestly, no digs at him owning and how much he controls the Cowboys on that. We're very glad. We can be glad as for Jerry Jones, the human, and I am.
Absolutely, and just again wanted to acknowledge that, and again hope that, like we all said, hope that this is a positive trend that can continue and maintain going forward.
Mm-hmm.
We've got our first message in today from Kurt Valetti, second message rather, but first question, saying, heard this today, a caller on the Fan, I'm guessing that means WFAN, made a good point. He said Stearns, so for those watching, just to clarify, that's president of baseball operations for the New York Mets, David Stearns, makes the small deals, Cohen makes the big deals, Alonso, Soto, etc. Do you agree with that? I'm going to go around the horn. I'll start this one, and then I'll go around the horn, as they say. I'll go to Jay, and then I'll go to Brandon. So I'm going to guess, because I read this two different ways. I read this, do I agree with it, as in, should that be the case? And I read this as, do I agree with it, as in, do I believe this is the case? So I'll just choose the latter to answer it that way, and then if I was wrong, Kurt, you can correct me. But I do believe that is the case. I think that's the case really across the board in Major League Baseball. I know the Yankee fans remember a couple years ago all too well. We had a certain guy by the name of Aaron Judge hit free agency briefly, even though it didn't feel brief to any of us. And we had, after John Heyman killed us all with the arson judges I was
going to say that was 3 days for me.
Yeah, no, I legitimately, I remember being on the phone with my father. I had to hang up the phone because I was on the verge of
tears,
strong emotions. Yes. But anyways, so I bring this up because it became very well known afterward that even though Brian Cashman was, kind of main guy at the beginning of that it was a meeting with Hal Steinbrenner, a conversation with Hal Steinbrenner that really closed that deal. And I think with the way salaries have drastically bloated in Major League Baseball and sports across the board, I would say, I think when you start getting into these 9-figure deals, particularly when they start with a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, especially with Soto, I mean, that one automatically I'll say yes, because I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, nobody's having you spend $800 million of their money and not being the driving force behind it, or at least a significantly involved for it. I am sorry. I don't care who you are. That ain't happening. So yes, I do believe, especially in this day and age, that again, I hate hearing people say that managers or GMs or whatever are puppets of, higher ups or whatever. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think that's the case. I think that, but I do believe that when you get to certain levels of money, certain levels of duration of contracts, yes, I do believe that there's a heavy influence from the ownership, or at least from somebody in ownership. And quite frankly, I think there should be, because again, whether you agree with the billionaires or whatever, it is their money, and I do believe that they should have a strong say as to how their money is spent. I don't care how much money they have or how much money it is. That's kind of all I've got on that. I'm going to kick it over to Jay.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So the one thing that I know about Steve Cohen, and this is, if I can be happy for Met fans for a second, one of the things that I was happy about is the change in ownership, because now you have an owner of a team who actually loves his team.
Oh yeah.
And I think he is enthusiastic about getting certain players. I don't always like his enthusiasm. I think.
May I ask why? May I ask why on that? I just want to get
because sometimes his enthusiasm manifests itself negatively. If we looked at what happened with Steven Matz, I mean, he went to Twitter and kind of like griped and moaned publicly about Steven Matz kind of backing out of a deal. And which is ironic because all the Met fans were telling us when Soto went to the Mets, oh, he was never yours, he was a rental, da 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 da. The same sort of thing with lesser intensity applies here. As an owner, you don't let them see you sweat like that. Just as a matter of pride. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
7 deadly sins. Mine happens to be pride. I don't know if it's Steve Cohen's. It probably should be when you're in an ownership capacity. I have seen I've seen a bit of a revolving door of GMs and presidents of baseball when it has come to the Mets, though. I mean, I think we've seen Sandy Alderson, David Stearns is here. I don't remember if Brody Van Wagenen was under Cohen at any point. Or
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he was still under the Wilpons.
Yeah, so there's a lot of moving parts. I think when it comes to smaller signings, as you said, Scoop, if you're signing like a reliever or if you're trading, I don't know, let's put in like Budo to get some pitching. Yeah, I think that he allows Stearns the autonomy. I honestly think for like a Soto, for an Alonso, that's where he knows, because he loves his team and because he knows he is catering to a base that loves their team. He needs to be just like who he views as his troops, the fans, and like lock in and make sure, we lean into this deal. And I got to give credit to him on that. There's a lot about his history as a person, again, I don't like, but I mean, he himself, again, as an owner, you can't hate the man for loving his team.
No.
It's what the Met fans have been waiting for like a couple of decades. And you got to be happy for them on that note. But he's going to make sure that none of those deals get screwed up. And I will even go as far as to say you give him a contrast a little bit for at least what I know to be kind of Hal Steinbrenner. Like Hal, I have to give Hal all the credit in the world on Aaron Judge. That was the one occasion I saw him get off the bench, at least in modern memory, and say, you are not screwing this up.
Mm-hmm.
The fans are not burning me in effigy at the stadium. We are getting Aaron Judge back. You might want the fans to come to your house. I don't want them at my house.
Yeah.
I have to come back off of this yacht. But I think, a healthy balance when it comes to Cohen and Stearns. And honestly, I don't think if it were any different, I think we would have heard different at this point.
Yeah. I will throw in two real quick things before Brandon go. But I will say I do think that at least I would throw Garrett Cole into that conversation about and I kind of waver on Stanton because I know that was both a trade and a major contract. So I don't really that feels like it was probably kind of a very close to even of the two. But I do agree with you that definitely his stamp on it all was definitely with Aaron Judge, as it should have been. Also, you kind of almost referenced something that you said a couple weeks ago when you said I love a man who eats with his troops, and you made the troop reference again there, and I kind of found it interesting how you went back to that. Brandon,
when I think about this, and I'm glad you brought it up, Jay, when you're talking about like the whole Steinbrenner side of it, like I look at Steve Cohen as a George Steinbrenner type, where he will do anything for his team to try to put the best product on the field that he can. And it's whether that be like an Iron Fist style like George, I don't think it's like that, but it's definitely close to it, I feel like. And when you have an owner that sees what he wants and isn't afraid to go and get it, good things usually follow. I mean, the Mets before Steve Cohen's tenure were, well, for lack of a better word, they were terrible. They had a couple of good years here or there, but most part, they were awful. he comes in pretty much right in the middle of COVID, and that team changes for the better. Uh, I think that when you have an owner that will kind of go after the bigger fish, that kind of helps too, or kind of at least steers the team in that direction to be like, hey, these are the guys I feel like would be best for our team as a whole. When you can see, I guarantee that he's probably telling that he's probably sitting there telling the whole front office. Forget even telling Stearns. He's probably telling the whole front office that hey, like these are the guys, these are the big fish I want. These are the guys that let's bring them in if we can. We got the money for it. I'll put out money from my own pocket if I have to make this team to build this team up, and then let Stearns take care of literally like the smaller fish. And I think that's it's important, but also I feel like that as much as that probably is true, that's how they run things. I feel like that's also it's a little bit of a kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like a kind of just a bad kind of rule of thumb to follow, because you have to be kind of in on all. You have to kind of treat it as a collaborative process. Like when we look at when
Gotta have a balance.
when we look at like what behind the scenes, what Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie do in Philadelphia, they are tied at the hip. Everything is together. So, ultimately Jeffrey signs off on it, but he trusts Howie to make those moves, and Howie will also defer to him, be like, hey, I think this is the best for our team, and they work on it together like that. The front office is very close. Howie has all his people in place there. Everybody's close. It feels like with the Mets that's not the case, but I mean, they're still in a better place now than they were 5 years ago. So it's really in a much better place. I mean, listen, this year has been a down year for New York sports in general. This last year, pretty much a year and a half. But it's still you can't argue with what he's done for the Mets as an owner and what he brought with the people that he puts in place and trusts to go out with bigger names, to go out and re-sign guys to the team, to at least be able to say, hey, we're making that push. He said he wanted Soto back when Soto was a Yankee. So, and he said he wasn't going to stop until basically he got him. He got him.
Yeah.
So it's, and it hasn't quite panned out yet, but it's Juan Soto's got plenty of years left on that deal. And plenty of time. He's only roughly around our age. He's 26, 27, or almost 27.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
We are not bringing age up anymore on this broadcast.
Yeah.
Roughly around. Yeah, let's call it.
Yeah, when I say hour, it's excluding Jay.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
But I mean, I just think overall, I mean that's why everybody talks about Pete Alonso being the big fish. This coming off season. And honestly, I can't see him leaving the Mets. I think he stays. He's too important to that lineup, and I think that's not going to be a Stearns call. That's going to be a Steve Cohen call.
Yeah.
Right. I also just real quick want to throw a couple of things in. Jay, a couple moments ago, there was some question about Brody Van Wagenen. It was the day the deal was finalized for Steve Cohen to take over the Mets. He was fired a couple of hours later. So I think it was literally his first move as Mets owner. So there was that. Real quick, I'm going to get into Kurt's question here. Here's a football question. Rashid Rice will be able to do the I think this is supposed to say that we'll be able to play the first 4 weeks of the season. Yeah. And then he'll be suspended 4 to 8 weeks. Guys, if you're KC, do you play him the first 4 weeks knowing he'll be gone the following 4 to 8? Do you roll with the talented – one second. Do you roll with the talented player, or are you worried about chemistry because he'll be missing for 2 months? Real quick, I do want to say, yes, he'll be able to play the first 4 weeks because his hearing is scheduled for September 30th. I've not been able to confirm that what he's saying, the second part of he'll be suspended 4 to 8 weeks. I've tried to confirm that since I saw this come up, and I have not been able to do so. So I do want to say that unless he's seeing this somewhere that I'm not, there's nowhere that I've been able to find that confirms that 4 to 8 week part. But essentially the question being, do you roll with a talented player, or are you worried about chemistry because of however long he ends up being missing? I'll start real quick, and then I'll kick it same order that I did before. I think for me, again, it kind of, and I know that this is for different reasons, and I am in no way trying to compare the two, but I immediately what comes to mind for me is when Tom Brady was, was playing and then was going to be suspended. We've seen it happen in baseball. We saw it happen with guys like Alex Rodriguez, where while he was in general, it's a thing where when you're appealing a suspension, you're able to play through that. It's tough. Chemistry is something that's always in my mind when it comes to sports, and when it comes to particularly something like quarterback to receiver. But I struggle with, if he's available to play, he's just better than who this replacement could be. And while you're waiting on, if they're not even going to have a hearing until September 30th, I just don't see the rationale in at least not. And, if there's an issue that then arises and you want to move him out for whatever reason, then you make that decision at that point. But to preemptively just keep him out of there because he's going to have a hearing that we don't even know how that's going to result, to me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, I'm and again, this is in no way a defense or delegitimizing the significance of what he allegedly did or in what he was allegedly involved in. But if the league themselves is not going to have a hearing until September 30th, then in my mind, he has to be treated in a pure football standpoint. He has to be treated as an active player. Jay, go on.
Yeah, and I tend to agree. I think he plays. I think he plays for as long as he's allowed to play up to that point. And, to the maybe locker room cancer, I don't think he's going to be a locker room cancer, honestly, on this case. I have not, and pardon my ignorance, I have not seen how his teammates are reacting to this. I can't imagine.
I haven't either.
Yeah, and I can't imagine if we're having this type of discussion right now that, it is that they're particularly revolted to him. I think the biggest threat to his performance may be whatever pressure comes with this story, knowing full well he has to play and answer these questions, possibly back in the locker room, or at least face the scrutiny in or away games. I think that'll be the biggest obstacle to overcome. I don't know how he's going to handle that obstacle yet. I think he is, from what I've read, he's remorseful. I mean, and, you can say it's easy to say, I'm remorseful for what happened. It's not like he's going to say he's not remorseful. It's either he's going to say he's sorry or he's going to stay silent and say it's an ongoing legal issue. The team has said the latter, so they're not commenting. But they, I think ultimately they play him. There isn't, unless there is something else comes out where they, can't from a PR standpoint fully handle it, and I don't see that happening. I think they play him. I want to say, because we have absence of evidence otherwise, that his teammates will support him as he plays and will support him going into Eddie hearings. And I think that'll help. He's just going to be dogged by the headline, and that's just going to be natural. That's going to be the human part of him. And if anything hobbles his performance, if anything hobbles the Kansas City Chiefs through his performance, it might be that. But my belief is that they've anticipated that, and they're going to figure out a way not to shut it down, but to deal with it. They've probably already briefed him saying, "Listen, you're going to play, but you're gonna be carrying this on your shoulder for a second."
Oh yeah, I'm sure several meetings about that happened before this even went public. I'm guessing that probably was already discussions that were happening. Excuse me, Brandon.
Yeah, from a pure football standpoint, but there'd be nothing for the Chiefs to gain by sitting him for the first month and waiting for the suspension to roll down. Like, you're not going to cut off your nose to spite your face. So you're not so. And the thing is, when you look at how tough their schedule is, the first 3 out of 4 weeks, you've got 3 playoff quarterbacks on there that you are going up against. You've got one team is in your division, one team just beat you in the Super Bowl, and another team's on your in the AFC. So you're not going to sit Rice out because of any ongoing legal issues when you need him, if he's eligible, which he's eligible to play, if you're going to need him all hands on deck to beat those teams. So it's not going to be a thing where they're going to sit him because of whatever litigation he's tied up in. It's going to be that he's going to play through it. He'll have, like you said, Jay, he'll have to bear the weight of it, whatever's going to come down on him and everything like that. But while he can still play, they need everybody to fall in line. And honestly, without him, I mean, Patrick Mahomes just in general does not have a ton of good receiving talent, and he hasn't had it for the last few years at this point. So honestly, I mean, any help they can get, even if it's not the cleanest, I guess you could say, if it's the guy that's not going to even play probably half the year, then you still got to take what you can get. You have to win games. This is they have to treat this like it's a business, it's a sport. They are expect to be a Super Bowl team. You have to have your best players on the field, like you were saying, Scooby. And they're not going to take him out
right.
play because the guy behind him is probably not going to be that good. So, realistically, I mean, you can't really sit there and just say, hey, we're going to sit you for the first 4 games. Wait, hopefully we can ride it out for the first 2 months and see if you come back or whatever when we need you late in the season and hope that you can catch up to speed with the team. No, he's up to speed with the team now. He's got the chemistry with Mahomes now. He's going to play the first 4 games to keep that chemistry up before he has to basically leave, if that's what ends up happening. So I don't see any reason why Kansas City would say, hey, don't play him. Like, you have to let him play. This is a guy that, I mean, he's what, a year and a half, 2 years removed. Like, his first season 2 years ago, he was one of the rookies of the year that everybody was watching like crazy. He had over 900 yards, 7 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we thought he was going to be the next big thing in Kansas City after Tyreek Hill.
Right.
So I mean,
Tyreek Hill's another good example of kind of precedent for this. They kept him on after all of his horrible legal stuff. So I find it even that's for an example just like that. I find it even harder to believe that they would not play a guy before he even has his literal and figurative day in court.
Yeah, I didn't want to say. I feel like I was going to say like this is not the league that is known for taking the moral high ground.
Yeah,
just 2.
They employed Deshaun Watson. So let's be real.
And the unfortunate part of it is that it just in NFL alone, we could go literally we could go for the next 50 episodes just on that whole saga there. But appreciate that, and I really appreciate the thoughts that each of you shared and kind of covering different elements of this. So thank you for that. My friend Nicole is joining in. Brandon, you know Nicole.
Yep.
Actually, Jay, do you know Nicole?
I don't think so.
Okay. But Nicole's joining in, says, hello, team. Says, Swifty Scoops, we got a new album. Yes, we did. Kind of funny that we go from Travis Kelce's team to this. But
excellent time.
Yes, we did, in fact, get a new, or we're going to get a new one anyway. And Kurt says they're saying it'll probably be okay, so this sounds more like a rumor than a substantiated thing. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me. That is generally kind of where they have it, is kind of stuff like that typically does come around the half a season or just under half a season. More
the reason to play them where you have them.
Right. And I'm not going to, what was that? And I'm not going to,
yeah, that is not from my standpoint.
Yeah. And I'm not going to, fixate on how they decide to do their suspension lengths based on different things, because we all know how ass backwards that is. But yeah, that's about what I could see being a reasonable range. I just can't say right now that I've actually seen that being a specific, something that is official or on track to being so. Coming off of that, we were going to jump into baseball and then do football predictions, but we're already on football. Why don't we kind of flip it and do it the other way around?
Yep.
And while we're on football, Nikki jumped back in. By the way, Nikki, the Dallas conversation I told you we were going to have happened at the beginning of the show, so you can rewind and get to that if you want. Says, I'd love to know y'all's unbiased thoughts on Dallas season. I love how she threw unbiased in there.
Yeah.
On Dallas season, as someone who doesn't have faith in doesn't have too much faith given recent events, aka Parsons, obviously referencing the Micah Parsons trade request as talks stagnated, to put it nicely, with Cowboys ownership and presumably their front office with Stephen Jones and the like. So, my thoughts on their season being, that's so like broad that I could, talk about that for a while. But I'll put it this way. I see them being the third best team in the division. I don't think they're better than Washington right now. Especially if as long as Jaden Daniels avoids the infamous sophomore slump,
Yep.
I don't think that they're better than Washington right now. And I think Washington got better in several ways this offseason.
Yeah.
You don't have to be biased at all to say that they're not better than Philly. And I think even Dallas fans would say they're not better than Philly. And then the Giants, the Giants is a bit tough for me. I don't think that the Dallas is going to be better than. I'm sorry. I don't think that the Giants are going to be better than Dallas. Rather, the one thing I will say is there have been recent examples, guys like C.J. Stroud, guys like Jaden Daniels, of quarterbacks really popping out the gate when let to play early. So were Jackson Dart to be able to show me something like that, then all bets are off. But he's not in a position. We know the offensive line stuff. We know they're still trying to get their weapons right. We know they've got some pieces on defense and they're improving. But I still, and again, we have to see what the new coach, what the some of the changes they've had to make recently on some of the not coaching, but like the assistants. Some of the guys that are a little bit newer, not necessarily this year, but guys who came in after Dable was brought in. Anyway, kind of went off the rails a little bit up the end there. My apologies for that. But the short version is that's where I expect them to be. I think they're going to be around third. I think they're going to pull a Jason Garrett special, finish around 9-8, 8-9. So that's kind of it. And quite frankly, as long as they're paying Dak that amount of money, that's where I see them finishing. I see them finishing between 7 and 9 wins pretty much every year. And kind of the main thing that I think impacts where they fall in that sort of middle range is largely going to be health and strength of schedule.
Mhm.
I don't see them I think they're always going to be a very low ceiling team and a very high floor team. Let's keep this going in this order because it seems to be going well. Jay.
Okay, so I was looking at the premise of the question. Just to reiterate, we want an unbiased take on the Dallas Cowboys. So I
Thank
did.
God I hadn't drank my water yet.
I did jot down a couple of unbiased thoughts about the Dallas Cowboys. I thought I'd read them out.
Well, this should be good.
The Dallas Cowboys are a football team.
Yes.
They play in Arlington, Texas.
Yes. 2 for 2.
They play in the same division as the Giants, which they'll probably be better than.
3 for 3.
They will win a game at least.
4 for 4.
They don't have Jalen Hurts as a quarterback.
5 for 5.
No, but in all seriousness, yeah, I think they get to like 7 or 8 games. I'm pretty much on the scoop from an objective standpoint. I don't think the Parsons news helps either. And that's one of 2 teams where I think in the NFC East where like the inter-team drama. See, it's really – I always like weirdly compare the dynamic of team drama unless it's really bad. Like Baseball, it's not like always as like hard hitting when you have like intra-team drama as it is with football. With football, it's a grand distraction. I never understand. I don't know what the dynamic.
We also, I feel like we don't hear about it as much in baseball,
right? And I don't know if that's because we got more players to move around when it comes to baseball. You've got a bigger roster, or you have less, or if it's because in baseball it's more games. But I don't think that's going to particularly. I say that to say I don't think that's going to particularly help Dallas.
Right.
Yeah. So, but
that's the other thing. I mentioned if Jackson Dart breaks out, I could see Dallas finishing fourth. That's the other thing that I could see them finishing fourth.
I don't know if I would go as far as to say that they finish fourth. I still think the Giants.
But I'm just saying the only other thing I could see them doing that is if their chemistry completely comes unglued, and I don't love knowing that the ship is being steered by Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah. Another fun Phil fact. They play at AT&T Stadium,
which is also in Arlington, Texas.
Yeah. Jerry Jones does not look like Jay.
Yeah.
I had to do something to make you uncomfortable. Still.
Yeah, I mean that one fell a little.
All right, I'm doing my own bias takes.
I'm kicking this over to Brandon before we don't get an episode 80 next week.
So the FCC suspends us.
I mean, you just told 17 frigging government agencies to come after me. All bets are off at this point.
But what are the Knicks' biggest problem, Scoop?
Oh boy.
If they're after me, you're probably half the reason why.
You're not wrong though, Scoop. But God, how do I follow that? So
that's a common problem with me.
So, well, I would say because I know Nicole asked the question. I would say that also, if you want to hear more talk about the Cowboys, watch the podcast that me, my friend Rob, Shane, that we do called Football After Hours. That we talk about football nonstop all day long. We're on there. We do that for maybe 2 hours. So if you want to hear more Cowboy stuff, because we talked about this on our last show, we did an NFC, not last show, the show before. We did NFC East. So we've been doing this now for the last couple of years where we broke the divisions up. So we did the East divisions for the first show 2 weeks ago. We did it NFC East, AFC East. Last week was the North. So last week was the South. AFC South, NFC South. This coming week is the North, and then obviously we'll finish with the West. So when we did the NFC East, which was, like I said, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, because we always do that show deep into our off season. A lot of the same points that you just heard Scoop and Jay make are maybe not so much Jay, but Scoop.
Probably not Jay.
A lot of the points that you heard Scoop make are a lot of the points that we kind of made, saying that Dallas would finish third. That how much trust do we have in Brian Schottenheimer, especially as a first-year head coach who hasn't done a whole lot in this league? We don't know. So far, he's kind of had to defuse a couple skirmishes in practice. He doesn't seem like a guy that kind of fits Dallas to me. I don't think that now George Pickens is insanely talented, but I think he's too much of a head case to keep him, good through all 16, 17 weeks. And he's got to be sharing the load with CeeDee Lamb, and I wonder how that dynamic's going to work. We have to see it. I mean, apparently in practice they say they're good, but that's practice. Wait until week 3, 4, and we'll see what happens.
We're talking about practice.
Yeah, thank you, AI. So you combine those two things off the bat, then you don't know what's happening with Micah Parsons. He's been playing mind games pretty much his entire career in Dallas, it feels like. Although I will say Micah Parsons, I mean, as people always forget this and they leave this out when it comes to how good he is. Is he good? Yes. Is he great? No. Because what happens in the second half of the season every year, the last 8 games, he does nothing. He goes invisible. So, as great as he is, someone might end up overpaying him, whether that's even Dallas or whether that's someone else. We'll see how that whole ordeal goes. But I just think that on paper, they have the third best roster in that division, and just that's kind of how it's going to shake out. Are they better than Philly? No. Dak's record against Philly is actually really good, but even so, okay, let's say you win. Let's say you split the games against Philly. I still think Philly wins the division anyway.
I don't think I want to say that.
Yeah, I don't want to either, but I mean, we never know. You got, I think even because Jaden Daniels has such a good rookie year that even if he has even a slight sophomore slump, because anything he does this year could be considered a sophomore slump because of just how historic that run was last year.
That's just it, yeah.
That even if he has a slight slump and he's just like a good quarterback this year, they will still finish better than Dallas. And I just think that, when I watch the quarterbacks in this division, well, I don't think Jackson Dart's going to start at all. I mean, he shouldn't. Russell Wilson's there. He's the starter on the depth chart. It's going to be Russ, then Jameis, then Dart. So unless they both go down or unless they're both ineffective, then he's not starting. If he does, we'll see. But that probably won't even be till way late in the season when it's all said and done, at the earliest. So, I'm already counting the Giants out. I mean, do they have a good defense? Yeah. Offense, there's nothing there except Malik Neighbors and maybe whatever you have in between the two young guys and Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatteraboo. So there's not.
And then do you want to throw Andrew Thomas in that or no?
I mean, yeah, if he's healthy, yeah. If he's healthy, then yeah. But even then, the rest of that line is not good. So
yeah, fair.
So Marcus Spears, former Cowboy, said it on Pat McAfee's show today that he thinks he's the king of like hot takes. He works for ESPN, for God's sake. He said that he's like, I don't think the Giants' offensive line is bad. I'm like, well, then you haven't been watching football ever because they have one of the worst bottom 5 offensive lines every single season. So I don't know what you're talking about, but when it comes to Dallas is like the Yankees. It's like they have high expectations, but lately for a while they have not met them. And they have talent. You've got Parsons, you've got Dak, you've got CD, you've got you do have George Pickens now, but you have Deron Bland. Like you have guys, you have a decent secondary, but they don't have. I don't think their front seven outside of Micah Parsons is good at all. And I don't think that and this is why they're going to lose, I think, quite a few games this year. Front seven's not good. And then their offensive line, they lost pretty much every veteran that they had that made that offensive line successful. I think Dak's going to get hit a lot this year. And it would surprise me if he didn't, especially when you combine that with the fact that they don't have – you're relying on a rookie running back to lead your running back room, and the rest of your running back room is not that good this season. I mean, I don't know why you would get rid of Rico Dowdle. I thought he was really good last year, and he was really good both in fantasy and just watching the games. So it's going to be really hard for Dallas to get anywhere when you're going to have to rely on Dak to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game because your running game probably won't be there and your offensive line is non-existent.
That level of passing attempts is when he had his worst. His best time leading the offense was when he was passing it less, and he was able to defer to guys like either Zeke or even Tony Pollard when he was doing his thing. And then I guess you could throw Rico Dowdle in there for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. So to me, it's just there's too much of an uphill battle for Dallas to climb for them to be. I mean. Can they sneak their way barely into like a 7 seed? Yeah, if they win 9 games, but that's probably it. And then they're definitely one and done because whoever they play is going to absolutely destroy them in the playoffs. So I mean, that's probably your ceiling. It is that high floor, low ceiling thing where it's like, yeah, they're not. I mean, unless everything crashes around them, they're not going to win. Only 3 or 4 games. They can win 7 games, but like Scoop said, like you're saying, Scoop, it's between 7 and 9. It's like they're not going to be great. And I just think that there's too many moving parts with this team right now between the controversies with Jerry Jones and the ownership, him saying just off the wall things about Micah Parsons, and Micah Parsons, threatening to leave, and then Pickens being a head case, and we don't know what he's going to be this year. We don't know if he's going to fight for the ball.
I can't believe they added George Pickens to that locker room. Like I mean, just talk about throwing gasoline on a wildfire.
I mean, CeeDee Lamb was already we saw him last year. He was pissed during games. So, and I get it. You didn't have Dak for most of the year, but I mean, it's not really going to make much difference when those guys have to split the ball and they both want the ball. They're both number one receivers, and you've got one guy committing personal foul penalties because he's fighting a DB, 40 yards down the field, and you've got one guy that's going to slam his helmet on the sideline because Dak's not throwing him the ball underneath on crossing routes, because that's what CD basically is known for. So there's just too many moving pieces for me to see it all fit together for them to make a push. And that's not just saying as an Eagles fan, it's just what I am seeing with this team. So
Right.
It's just I love when the NFC East is competitive, but right now the dynamic that, what was it? Over about 15 years ago, it was the Cowboys and the Giants kind of fighting it out, and the Eagles kind of trying to catch the Giants and so forth. And
like before McNabb caught fire, if that's what you're talking about, or are you talking about like the end of the Reed tenure?
Like pretty much right at the end of the Reed tenure when Philly was kind of bottoming out. And
the 6-10 and the
the 8-8 years, the 4-12, like that kind of stuff. When you had when you were bottoming out, it was mostly Dallas and the Giants, trading it kind of back and forth. So, but we're not there now. Now it's completely flipped. Now it's the Eagles and Washington neck and neck. So, I think that it's gonna get worse before it gets better for Dallas. And I think that they're gonna have to go through the years that kind of Philly went through 15-ish years ago to kind of come out on the other side and come back stronger. It's gonna take a little bit. I mean, listen, anything can happen. It's football. Listen, they could win 10 games. I can't see it. Like the talent says that it's possible. But when you look at all the things that have happened this offseason and the media circus, that even Jerry Jones has called his own team a circus, a soap opera.
I can't believe he said that yesterday. I can't believe he said that.
Yeah,
like
that's already not good.
I don't know if he's going deaf, but he's certainly tone deaf.
Yeah. So all those pieces together, I think they're third place in the NFC East, and I think they missed the playoffs. That's just how. I mean, listen, you'll get a decent draft pick, so you got to start building that from there. But if you realistically, it's like, how can I say it? As my final point to tie it in is like, you don't want to actively root for your team to lose, but if this team starts off bad the first month and a half, and they're like, 1-5 or 2-4, something like that, then at that point, if I was a Dallas fan, thank God I'm not, but if I was, I would just say, hey, listen, pack it up for next year. I don't even want to see this team near the playoffs, because what good would it do them to not even get close to the Super Bowl at that point? So I don't know.
You'd be in the Steelers situation where you're making the playoffs frequently, but you're getting bounced every year.
And you don't want that. That's the ceiling of where Dallas can be this year. That's the ceiling of where Dallas is going to be this year. That's not the low end. That's the high end. So you don't want to get stuck in a Steelers cycle where they're just good enough to be right there to make a playoff spot and get fans hyped, but they're not good enough to win it all. So, or even win a playoff game, for God's sake. So they're third place in that division until we see otherwise. Until they start, unless they go on a hot streak and they win like the first 4 or 5 games or whatever it is of the year, then we can talk. But I think until we get until we see anything else to the contrary, that's a third place team in the NFC East.
Yep,
I agree with that, and I want to correct something I said earlier. Talking about how much has gone on with that circus in Dallas, I've been saying that Dak is overpaid in one thing or another. Maybe I'm wrong, because he doesn't throw a lot of TDs and he throws too many INTs, but man, does he put up with a lot of BS. Nikki says, the Swift team is very excited for Dallas to play Kansas City, though. I don't see Dak having a stellar year either. CeeDee Lamb is my favorite Cowboy. Mr. David Burns says, watching from Cedar Hill, Texas. JC Weaver is joining us and says, as a Broncos fan, good luck to you with Russ. Be careful, he's dangerous, LOL. Nikki says, Dallas just hasn't been clicking, and it's very frustrating to watch as a fan year after year. Yeah, I didn't agree with letting Dowdle go either. That's referring to Rico Dowdle. I waited for CD to sign the extension before getting his jersey. I hope we don't lose him. That is exactly why I'm always reluctant to get players' jerseys, and I will always prefer to get jerseys either of young players who are not going to be free agents for like 4, 5, 6 years in Major League Baseball, or guys who have just locked in like massive extensions, like the Judge, Cole. The most recent jersey I remember getting in any sport was Saquon Barkley for Philadelphia after his extension. Actually, it might have been before his extension, but it was like when we thought he was going to get the extension anyway. That's always what I'm afraid of, because for the longest time when I was younger, whether it was a jersey, a shirt, or an autograph, for whatever reason, I would get one of them, and then the guy would be either traded or whatever within a year, and I was just like, well, that stinks. So we went a little bit longer on that than I expected. So why don't we, instead of doing the 1 through 7 seeding, why don't we go through rapid fire and talk about? We'll give a division winner from each division, and then maybe we'll go a little deeper in the playoffs. Maybe next episode. You guys good with that?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. By the way, just as an aside, at least for the last round when we were asked for the unbiased take, I actually gathered my thoughts this time.
I respect
sure?
that. I respect that. Yeah, it's a good point.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
If that's Jay's gathered thoughts, what are we?
I'm saying, let's count our blessings on this cast here.
No, true. Yeah, real quick. So we'll go through, and maybe what I'll do is go division by division, and then we'll, for each division, I'll go rapid fire for each of us three. I've been going first a lot, so I'm going to have Jay go first. I'll go last.
No, you go first, dude. I want to hear yours first.
All right. AFC. I'm starting with the AFC East, and I think this might be a pretty easy one for most people. I'm going to say Buffalo. Jay and Brandon, do you agree with it?
Yeah, but I can't see anybody but Buffalo.
Yeah,
I think the Patriots might improve, but I think Buffalo takes. I don't think anybody's good enough to beat them.
All right. I'm going to go AFC North. Unfortunately, looks like Cleveland might once again be the worst team in the league after briefly looking somewhat formidable for a period of time. Cincinnati, I just don't trust health-wise as much as I think that they're extremely right. And I just as much as I think that they might be a better roster talent-wise than Baltimore. I think their upside might outdo Baltimore's, but again, best ability is availability. So that's pushing me toward the Ravens on this one. Jay,
about the same for the same reasons. I'm going with the Ravens. I think it's going to be a good, successful season for them. As to whether or not they're going to the biggest question obviously is going to be, are they going to make a big playoff run? But for a lot of the reasons that you cited, I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Yeah, and I'll also add, because you mentioned the playoff run thing, Lamar is not having the same level of bugaboo issues in the playoffs that he once did. So that I think is also Brandon.
Yeah, and also when I look at that division, Steelers are defensively the best in that division. The problem is that that's all they have. And then the Bengals are the flip side. It's all offense, no defense. They can score 40, but they'll give up 45. Browns are terrible. So really, by process elimination, it's the Ravens. And then also last year, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow had 2 classic games against each other, and the Ravens won both of those games. So it's Baltimore.
AFC South. This is probably somehow the most interesting and uninteresting division in the AFC East. I'm sorry, in the AFC rather. Tennessee. I don't trust the way that they're run. And Cam Ward. I don't dislike Cam Ward, but I'm not the fan of him that some others are. I look around the division. The Colts. I mean, Daniel Jones. Need I say more? We go to the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence. You guys know I'm not the fan of Trevor Lawrence that others are. And they've got some new coaching, which I don't think necessarily that's a bad thing with Liam Cohen and company, but
Whoa.
but at the same time, I don't know how quickly that'll integrate, and I don't know. We don't know how Liam Cohen is as a head coach yet, and so this is kind of a process of elimination thing for me. But I also, again, I am a big believer in Coach D'Amico Ryan's. We have already seen what C.J. Stroud can do. I know they hit a bit of the doldrums last year. But I think that they have enough at least to win this division. Don't know how many other divisions they would win, but I'm going to take the Houston Texans here. Jay.
I'm going to take the Houston Texans as well. I don't know. Again, another team, I'm not sure how deep of a playoff run they've got. I think, maybe the Jaguars can actually surprise us a little bit. I don't think – like I said, I'm willing to see maybe like after the first 2 or 3 weeks what Liam Cohen is actually made of. But it is also processed by elimination for me, and it wasn't a big elimination process that I had to go through. I'm saying it's the Texans. I think they still have to keep their division. I think they're going to be a 4 seed, though.
Brandon, take us through.
Yeah. When we did our own predictions for this division, it was pretty clear cut to us that it was going to be the Houston Texans. I don't see how C.J. Stroud's going to have another just tough year. And I mean, hell, even with the tough year he had last year, they still won 10 games and they won a playoff game. So, and if that's the bar, then I can't see how they get worse. So to me, I think that they've got the pieces there in place to kind of do the same thing again. So I think they win that division. I mean, I just don't. The Titans are a retirement home, so I don't think that. I mean, that's pretty much what they are. So I've never liked what the Titans do. The Titans should never fired Mike Vrabel all those years ago.
Thank you.
So that's,
I didn't like getting rid of Tannehill either.
Yeah, and then you let Derrick, you don't pay Derrick Henry, so you can let him pretty much just go by the wayside. So everything there just didn't pan out. Giving us AJ Brown for a bag of cookies.
I was just gonna say the only reason I didn't mind them getting rid of AJ Brown is because of where he went.
But then the thing is too, like, what's funny? I would say Indy if they just had a quarterback, but they don't have one. So
that's like the biggest if in perhaps not just football, professional sports, perhaps.
Yeah. So like if they would have had just a decent quarterback, I would say, hey, Indy could make a run because they do have decent players. They do have a decent O-line. They've still got Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman's great. I like Alec Pierce a lot. I like what they do defensive. Like, they've got plenty of pieces there, but I just think that when you don't have the quarterback, it doesn't matter who you've got. If you don't have a quarterback, if you can't score points offensively, then it's not going to matter. And I think the Texans are just probably the most well-built team for that division, so it's going to be the Texans.
Right. And the AFC West. I know this is going to upset a lot of Broncos fans on here. Jay, what was that?
No, I think I know what you're about to say. Well, I mean, there's one of two things you could say, but I'm waiting for you to say it.
This division has not been won by a team other than Kansas City since I was 14 years old, and I am now 25. And I think this got overlooked because of the fact that they went to the Super Bowl, and then obviously we know what happened there. I'm not going to bring that up again. Yeah, exactly. But the point I was going to make is that. And I know they play one more game now than they used to, but this is actually the most wins in a regular season this past year that they've had since that streak of 10 or 11 seasons of winning the division. So this was not a patsy Kansas City team by any stretch of the imagination. Even if you say a couple of their wins were lucky or close, as I did last year, 15 wins is 15 wins. And you don't luck your way to 15 wins. Maybe to a couple of them you do, but not to 15 of them. And again, we don't know what's going to happen with Rashee Rice. That's going to be a bit of a wild card here, no pun intended. But in this situation, again, until either Bo Nix, which I think is probably who it would have to be, but until somebody else in this division, and again, I think it would probably be, if it's anybody, I think it would be Denver. but in 99 out of 100 universes, I'm taking Kansas City, and that's just it. Jay.
And this is one of two divisions I really seesawed with today, even as we were thinking about, what our 1 through 7s were going to be. And I was trying to find the tiebreaker. I honestly think also for the reasons that you're saying, I don't think Kansas City is just going to be unlucky. I think we already know how much they underrate the Eagles going into this year. I don't think we can underrate the AFC champs going into this year either. I think neither team got lucky, and neither team is hobbled by the Super Bowl or by either on either end. Now, I think Denver has got a good O-line. I think they will have a pretty good defense. I think Bo Nix will take that next step. I don't know, even with the Rashee Rice stuff, that it is going to be enough this year to overcome the strength of Kansas City. I think Kansas City.
That's where I'm at.
I think, again, you squeeze as many games as you can out of Rashee Rice. Make the adjustments. I think they're already preparing to make those adjustments. I still think Kansas City ekes it out.
And Brandon, and
ekes it out at worst, by the way.
Yeah, and Jay, when you say this year in particular, I agree with you because I do like the future for Denver in that division. Brandon.
Yeah, it should be Kansas City, and I do think it will be. I just think that this will probably be the closest division race that we get in a long time between Denver and Kansas City. I mean,
I agree with that.
The Chargers have Justin Herbert, strong arm, good statistically, but right now, with how Denver's built, I think Denver's the more well-built team. I mean, they went out this offseason and they built that defense up.
Yeah.
They're giving Bo Nix every opportunity to go out there and build off of last year. So, to me, I mean, because not for nothing, Patrick Mahomes' numbers have dipped the last 2 years pretty sharply.
Right.
And Denver has a really good defense. So, we don't know if there's going to be a little bit of a, usually the Super Bowl loser has a pretty big hangover, trying to get back there and trying to avenge their loss. I mean, that we saw that happen to Philly. So, this could be there's a lane for Denver to surprise the Chiefs, and I think it's going to be close. And I still think Denver will make the playoffs. But I think Kansas City squeaks it out. I think it's going to be something where they win 13 games while Denver wins 11 or 12. So, so to me, it's Kansas City, but it's not by much.
I think that's entirely fair. And excuse me. And as we all said, Rashee Rice thing may loom, somewhat large depending on, how that goes, and also depending on how the team looks before that decision is made, either on September 30th or shortly thereafter. And we kick over to the NFC. And we kind of just did the NFC East, I feel like. So we'll go to
honestly, who are the three of us really going to pick?
I wanted to, because I've been on a jinxing type of vibe lately with the teams I've been rooting for. So I really did want to say, all right, I think it's going to be the Eagles, but let me just predict Washington. And I'm just,
we need to break the streak. It's been 20.
I'm going to go, and I'm going to go balls to the walls and say, F it. It's going to be the Eagles in the
end. So I'll go to going to the NFC North then. You guys know I've been high on this team for several years. I was high on them kind of even before they got to some of the depths that they've gotten to the last couple of years, or not the depths, the how deep they got into the postseason is what I meant. I'm a big fan of Jared Goff, huge fan of Coach Campbell, and I'm a big fan of the front office guys like, I think John Dorsey is one of the most underrated personnel executives in the NFL. I like I think Brad Holmes, I think this is the GM up there. And just what they've built in Detroit, I don't think that they're a flash in the pan. I think that they are I don't know that they'll necessarily take the next step this season per se, but I do think they're going to be right there with that sort of 2 to 4, range. Which obviously by that I'm obviously saying I think they're going to win the division. But yeah, I think it's going to be fairly going away. I know that people are big on Jordan Love. And I don't think the Packers are going to have a bad season. I don't think the Vikings are going to have a bad season. I actually do like JJ McCarthy in there with McConnell and on that team. So I do think that's going to be. I think you could see 3 teams with winning records from this division. But I'm not able to back off my optimism on Detroit. I've got them winning this one. Jay.
Another one that I was like really divided on. I think Green Bay is good on both sides of the ball. I think Detroit, I believe, has a couple of injury concerns. I got a lot of high regard for Jared Goff, though, as well. It's hard not to like Detroit's talent. I want to give the slight advantage, though, to Green Bay. I think I'll give it to Green Bay.
Entirely fair.
Yeah.
And I do like that we're having a couple of these divisions where like we're sort of breaking off and different teams, because there's some teams or there's some divisions where like it was kind of chalk and kind of easy for us to all have a consensus. I kind of like these. I'm kind of interested in these ones where we're splitting off a little bit. Brandon, take us home on the NFC North.
It's this one is the one I can probably seesaw back and forth on for a long time. And don't get me wrong, I love Detroit, but when you have to replace 2 good coordinators, that's not easy, and that's why I hesitate to pick Detroit. I mean, to me,
that's what I forgot to say. Yeah,
it still should be Detroit because offensively they're a juggernaut, and I mean defensively they're not as bad as the Bengals are, compared to their offense, both sides.
Right.
So it should be Detroit. And the thing is, I don't know where you're going to get. Like, there's a lot of question marks on each team. Does Green Bay have receivers? Maybe, maybe not. Does Minnesota have a quarterback? We don't know yet because we have to see what JJ does. How is Chicago going to work? How is Caleb Williams going to do in his second year? How is that all going to fit with? And also, if anybody knows how to beat Detroit, it's the guy that Chicago currently has as their head coach. So, I think this is going to be tight this year. I still think Chicago finishes last because Chicago is just, I just don't think they're better than those 3 teams. But I'll say Detroit, but barely. They're not going to win. I don't think they're going to win 15 games again. There's no way you lose 2 good coordinators and you're going to win another 14, 15 games. It's not a way.
That's a good point. I should have mentioned that, losing their 2. I should have mentioned that. That's a point I'm glad that you raised.
Yeah.
NFC South. This is I don't know. The 2 South divisions are both.
They're not good.
They're not entertaining.
They're both an equal mix of very interesting in a weird way to me, but also very not interesting. Like they're interesting because they're not. I don't know how to make it make sense. But
in the city, we call that mid.
I'll put it.
I don't even know if I want to call it mid because
the reason why they're interesting to me is because they're the least obvious. It seems like in both conferences. That's how I'll phrase it.
Yeah, we're not getting a Super Bowl champ out of either one. So yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, to actually get to the point here, so for me, it automatically came down to 2 teams, which were Tampa Bay and Carolina, largely because Atlanta again. They keep spinning their wheels, I have the Atlanta standard in my head still of it being the Matt Ryan and Julio Jones Falcons. So they're particularly disappointing to me every year because I'm still expecting something close to that. And again, this is a team that has Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts, who we were told were the 2 best offensive prospects in their respective draft classes. And I ain't seeing that. So I don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know if it's an offense, like a scheme thing. I don't know if it's a fit thing. I don't know if it's a lack of development thing. Like I don't know what it is, but I talk about some of the quarterbacks who I'm like, when are we going to see what we've been hearing about? And I'm also feeling that way with these two guys. Like at some point, I got to see something more than what I've gotten so far. So automatically I can't. And then the Saints. I mean, there was a part early this offseason where Spencer Rattler legitimately had a chance at the starting job. Do I need to see anything else? And so it came down to those those two teams for me, Tampa and Carolina. The two things that pushed me toward Tampa and away from Carolina. One, Bryce Young took a significant step in a lot of people's eyes last year, and they still went 5-12. So if your quarterback can take a significant step and you're still losing 12 games, I don't suddenly see you rapidly or like massively doing a turnaround. They made a couple of nice pickups in the draft, and I like some of the incremental moves they've made this offseason. And I do still have some hope for Dave Canales. I hope I pronounced that right. But
no, you're right.
Yeah, but again, you combine those things with the fact that I think there's very underrated coaching staff. I think in Tampa Bay, and again, I say this every year, but my guy Baker Mayfield, he is somebody who, when the stakes are the highest, he puts out some of his best football. And Jay, both of y'all remember we got walloped by the Bucks. I think it was 2 years ago. And
we've been getting killed by Tampa the last 4 years.
That's the thing. The Bucks have been, even before he got there. Then again, that was Tom Brady. But still since he got there, Tampa has been like probably that one team that every team I feel like has that one team that just randomly plays them hard, and Tampa's really been that team in my mind. So I got to put the Bucks as my team in the NFC South. And again, this is probably, in my opinion, this is going to be one of the divisions I think that's going to be one of the wider margins from one to two. Jay.
Yeah, I was going to just talk about the margin myself. I also agree with you. I think it's going to be the Bucks. I think they're playing in a division where they can finish with a record above 500, and then every other team, second to them, third to them, fourth to them, or third to them, will finish under 500. I think they have all the pieces in place to kind of capture that division. Again, we're not going into their playoff chances tonight, but I honestly think if there's still anybody out there still sports betting money with the loan shark, and you're betting on the NFC South, bet the Bucks.
Yeah. It's until I see Baker Mayfield fall flat on his face, which he's just not going to do. It's Tampa. And not just when you look at what Tampa's got now, I'm not a fan of their coaching staff, but it's not hard to, their coaching staff is still the best in that division. So I don't think it's particularly close. So, when you couple that fact with they've got the best coaching staff in that division, which it's not saying much, but it's enough. And when you've got Baker, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, even some of the third, fourth string guys that had to play last year because of injuries who played well. Defensively, you still got, a couple of key pieces. You still have Vita Vea in the middle. When you've got a bunch of guys that are really good at what they do and have been doing it for years now, and you've got a complete team that's literally won the division the last 4 seasons in a row, I don't think it's going to be I think it's going to be, I think Tampa wins the division by probably about 2 games, 2 or 3 games. And I can't see how they don't. And also, listen, as a Ducks fan, just like I gave praise to Bo Nix earlier, I'm going to give praise to Bucky Irving because Bucky Irving is probably one of the best dual threat running backs in the NFL, if not the second best, next to maybe Kamara. Because I would say CMC, but CMC is old and getting injured now. So Bucky Irving, I have faith in. I think he's going to take a big leap this year. Baker Mayfield's great. All these guys are great. There's a lot of future Hall of Famers here on this team. There's guys who are all pros on this team. Mike Evans, unless the world stops spinning on its axis, Mike Evans is going to top 1,000 yards again. So it's Tampa.
Yeah, and then last but certainly not least, the NFC West, and this one, I can see a world in which, for some reason, for some reason, at some point, somewhat early in the year, the quarterback job goes to Jalen Milroe, and I genuinely believe he might be the most underrated player in this past draft. There are a lot of teams that had a big again opinion of him. Some of the critics were saying he's a he's a fifth, sixth round pick. These guys took him in the top 100. They don't exactly have a significant, a top tier quarterback at the number one position to begin with. This is a coaching staff that I think wants to get their guy and get their guy right. Now that they kind of have put their feet down in Jacksonville, some of the front office recent realignment, I'll say, has been clear that they're kind of pivoting away from the not just Mike Carroll, obviously, but the Mike Carroll ethos and mentality, and a little bit more towards something that's a little bit more offense oriented. And just as such, we've talked about McDonald. We're still trying to see what he can do long term with the head job. But again, let me be clear. I'm not saying Seattle, but I'm saying that they're a dark horse for me that I think that should be watched. But again, we've said it before, and I know that there are people who have checked out on the LA Rams who think that they're too battered up, who think that Stafford's over the hill, who think that Sean McVay is 5 minutes away from going into a TV booth, who think that that defense can't hang it now without Aaron Donald, who think that without Jalen Ramsey and Odell Beckham, that they're being counted out. As long as Sean McVay, Les Snead, I think that's the guy up there, Matt Stafford, and a couple of these other defensive veterans are there. As long as they're still there, and as long as they're still approaching this thing, and now that they actually have draft picks, I'm not counting this team out at all. And I just don't trust San Francisco to stay healthy. I've never been a Shanahan fan. I think that they have been. I think people talk about the Yankees being carried by their talent. I think San Francisco has been the most carried by their talent team in perhaps either MLB or NFL. Again, like I said, not a Shanahan fan. This is an offense or just a team in general where you get there is some of the most injury prone and injury risk of any team in the NFL. But just by the way that they play, McCaffrey is older. I think Brock Purdy is a decent quarterback. I think that he gets looked at. I don't want to say he gets overrated, but I think what he is more is relative to his value as the last pick in the draft. I don't think that necessarily being very valuable for being the last pick in the draft automatically makes you a very good to great quarterback. And in some of his biggest moments, he has looked a little bit more like a day three quarterback. That all being said, again, my ups on the Rams, my downs on the Niners. I'm going Los Angeles to win this division. And this is probably one of the divisions where I would be most surprised if my prediction was wrong. Jay.
I was actually not out on the Rams earlier today, and I'm still with the Rams for a lot of the reasons you say. I like to say that this division is probably going to be, as we keep talking about injuries, the injury bowl kind of. Listen, they're going to have to move on from Stafford eventually. I still think that while he is there, if we, can get a lot of playing time out of him, I still think strategically, with all the presence that they do have, as you covered it, the veteran presence, while that team might be aging, I still think it's aging with grace. I still think it has I still think they still have the weapons to win the West. I do think the 49ers are going to be definite contenders. I actually expect the 49ers to be a playoff team as well. But I think ultimately the Rams end up taking that division.
All right. So seems you're a little more optimistic on the Niners than I am. It sounds like, but be curious to see. They're just such a hard team to predict, man. Because if everything goes right, they can be a top 2 team in the NFC. If everything goes wrong, they can be much lower. There's a lot.
Listen, the luck keeps flipping for them.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of variance in outcomes. I would say they're probably the most variance in outcomes for them as there is in any team in the conference.
Yeah,
Brandon,
they're on an up year on their luck.
There's two things. You know how they say in real estate it's all about location, location, location. Well, in the NFC West, it's all about quarterback play, quarterback play, quarterback play, because there's question marks with all 4 of these teams at quarterback. Kyler Murray, can he stay off Call of Duty and actually play good football? Maybe, most likely not. And it's just, my God, every time I see a highlight of his, it's followed by a low light. So, what are we getting out of Kyler Murray? We don't know. What are you getting in Seattle between Sam Darnold and maybe having to put Jalen Milroe in? You don't know yet.
Roll Tide. Sorry, just had to get that in there.
And then LA, is Matt Stafford, is his back going to be, is he going to be healthy? They keep saying, oh, he could play tomorrow, but he won't be 100%. So which one is it? Is he going to play? Is he not? And then you've got, listen, Brock Purdy is the healthiest of the bunch and probably the most, I guess, as of this current moment, the guy that's, everybody knows is going to at least bounce back from what happened last year. But so, but the thing is, he's still a game manager at heart. And I will always say that until I see otherwise. Because the thing is, once he loses even one of his star players, he starts playing like crap, as does the rest of the team. And they also can't play from behind. That's another sign of him not being capable as a game manager. Because once they fall behind, they don't stay in it for long. But here's the thing I will say. I'm not going to say that this is going to happen, but it would not surprise me. There's always, it feels like a division every year where there's a team that goes from worst to first. San Fran has the easiest schedule in football this year. If they are healthy, they can win this division. Do I think they do? No. I think the Rams are still just too. Listen, they lost Cooper Kupp, but outside of that, I still think they are too kind of stacked, and they were literally 10 seconds away from beating us and moving on. And going to an NFC Championship game. So I would not be surprised if San Fran goes worst to first, and I think that they might be that dark horse for me just based on their schedule and if they're healthy. But the thing is, I'm not even a Shanahan guy anymore. I was maybe 2-3 years ago, not now. But McVay usually gets the better of him overall. McVay,
that's another good point.
McVay to me is also the smarter coach. He's the better offensive, mind, I feel like. And I don't think that's a stretch at all.
I just think Shanahan has gotten more rope solely because his name is Shanahan.
Yeah, exactly. And I think San Fran's best shot was when they made the Super Bowl against Kansas City. They lost, but that was their best shot. And then I think that was it. Then their window has diminished significantly, if not closed. So I think it's LA, but I don't think it's by much. Was it last year the division came down to every time LA wins a division, really the last two times they won a division, it's come down to either being a tiebreaker. It was a tiebreaker last year, or even in 21 when they won it and they went to Super Bowl, it was by literally one game. It was over Arizona. Yeah. So they're not going to win it by much because that's not what LA does. And that's not what that division does. And every year those teams are always dogfighting each other. But I think that it's LA by like a nose hair. But I think they win it probably by about a game And I think that it would be because Matt Stafford will early on he might not be healthy, but I think if he depends on what his back feels like. If he gets healthy, then I'm not going against the only guy in that division that has a ring. So I'm not doing that.
Right. And excuse me. And you made a good point about them, being within, like you said, a couple of, bounces, if you want to say. I don't know how you would really, a couple of tips or whatever, of the ball, of beating us in that game. We all know the 78-yard touchdown was really the not necessarily the most, not necessarily the last play, but definitely definitely the biggest play, it seemed, of that game, and it did end up being the difference in the score with that tutty. But all right, that concludes that. And Jay, what was that? You just went wide-eyed on me. Are you good, bro?
No, I'm all right. I'm fine.
Okay. I said, "Are you good, bro?" You said no.
I just realized I did that.
Do we still
My eyes
want?
were burning. That's the problem. Sorry.
Yeah. Do we still want Jay's eyes to continue to burn as we talk about the misery of yesterday's game with the Yankees, or are we gonna sticking to football tonight?
Yeah, well, that was what I was just about to ask y'all. I mean, how are y'all for continuing for baseball? You want to save that for next week now because of how long this went, or y'all want to just keep as Jay said a couple of weeks ago? I'm going to try and do the voice. Have we tried locking in?
I mean, I could talk about sports for 5 hours if they let me. Yeah. I don't care.
Hang on one sec. Something ain't right here. A YouTube account in Jay's name just said this man claiming to be Jay is an imposter.
What the
Jay, did you cite it to your own YouTube account?
Yes.
Oh, no way. Okay.
This man is way too good of a multitasker.
Wow.
Either that or he has worse ADHD than I do.
I probably do, actually.
I'm sorry. It's because I talk too much, and that I give you guys plenty of time to formulate your next thoughts.
Yeah, well, it's anyway. So yeah, we have gone well into the second hour on this deal, but again, it's up to you guys. Do we want to just hit baseball hard next week, or do we want to go at least excuse me. Maybe what we'll do is maybe you guys want to at least just talk about these last few games, and then maybe so on a more macro level, we'll get into the team as a whole next week, because we obviously got a couple big series coming up against St. Louis, and then not long thereafter we got the series against Boston, which is probably going to be the biggest series of the season at this point. Yeah.
So I mean, we could touch on the Houston series, and then this past series against the Twins, and then lead us into that.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to go to the Houston series? Okay. Well, since you mentioned it, why don't you start off? Just again, like you said. Excuse me. Obviously, that was that last game from Sunday. Miserable 6-run loss at home. Just unacceptable. There's literally no other word for it. Just unacceptable. Excuse me. They took 2 out of 3 from us. The one game that we took was by 1 run. And a lot of the 1-run games this year have been able to go either way for us. I mean, that sounds obvious, but it is how it is. Yeah. So I guess, Brandon, I guess my question for you is, okay, I'll start it this way. Are you among the people who is looking at the winning of this series this past 3 days against Minnesota? Are you looking at this as saying, it's the Twins, we always beat up on the Twins, and not really taking optimism from that series or taking much of it? Or do you look at that as, wow, we really played like a cohesive team, at least those first 2 days? That's I guess where I'll start. I won't get too specific with my question. I'll kind of let you run with it. Maybe not for quite as long this time. just share with me, and then we'll go to Jay after that to get a response.
So what's tough about the Yankees Twins series is the Yankees have owned the Twins for the last 20 plus years. Like that's just been how it's gone. Whether that's 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, sweeping them, whatever it is. I'm on the fence because the first 2 games were really optimistic. I mean, you scored 6 in the first one, you scored 9 in the second one. You really opened it up on them in the second game. But I would have felt better about how this team was trending, even if you lose game 3 of that series, which they did. And I know you went against Joe Ryan, but to only score, to leave quite a few guys on base, that they did kind of in the series against the Twins, they did leave more runs out there. And then getting to game 3, and I mean, you're only putting up 1 run. You look just flat all night in that game. I mean, your only run was a solo homer, and what's more concerning is the deeper picture of it, that in that Twins series, virtually all your runs, except for maybe 1 or 2 of them, came from the home run.
Right.
And that's the hard part about this game is that, the Yankees hit more home runs than anybody. But I want to see them score runs in different ways. A sign of a good team is that you can hit the long ball, you can go for small ball, you can get base hits, you can find the open holes in the defense, you can swing approach at the plate with 2 strikes and shorten up and kind of slap the ball the other way if you need to hit it where it's pitched, things like that. And there's a lot more that goes into it than just that, but it feels like I'm not quite sold yet on where they're going. Yes, they won that series, but game 3 looked so bad to me, and then for most of your runs to come off of the home run, the long ball, is a little bit scary to me. So I'm not. It's a good start, and the good thing is the teams around them are losing, so they're not. It's not like the Yankees are fading away into obscurity, falling back out of the wild. But
you also want to capitalize though on those opportunities when those other teams lose. Like, and that's the frustrating thing is like it's like we're grateful not to lose rather than we're actively doing damage, and it kind of is a microcosm for how we're playing too. Like it's we didn't make any errors. No, that's not. I don't want to judge a game by did we not F up. I want to judge a game by did we punch them in the mouth.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been that way. The game on Tuesday, you win 9-1, great. I mean, the other games, I mean, you're not scoring many runs. I mean, even going back to that Rangers series, and even in the Rangers series, you got shut out 1 game, you scored 3 the next game, barely won. You lost. So you lost 2 out of 3 there, kind of ugly, and then you lose 2 out of 3 of the Astros, ugly. And so the offense is not consistent, and it's a lot of those runs are the home run ball. So it's there's a little bit of optimism because you did take 2 out of 3, but you also got to realize, yes, it's the Twins, and you should beat them, but that 3rd game you really wanted to sweep them because you would have gained ground, because I think that was the night where all the teams. Well, I should say yesterday. The game was yesterday, where all the teams that were in front or behind you, they all lost. I think the Red Sox, Cleveland lost. And if you would have won that game, if you would have swept the Twins, you would have only been a half game back of the Sox. So that was an important game that felt
that series coming up.
It felt like you had to sweep that series, and the fact that you didn't leaves you with like an empty feeling. And I mean, I know it's Joe Ryan, but they did have opportunities and they didn't capitalize on them.
Not only that, but it's like we're not in a position, if we want to get to where we want to go, we can't say, well, it's Joe Ryan. That's who you're going to be facing in October.
Exactly.
That's who you're going to be facing in October. No disrespect to him, but you're not going to be facing 2025 Sandy Alcantara. Like the mentality of, well, it's this great pitcher. Better find a way to hit some of those guys soon, or good luck winning a game in October, let alone.
I saw a lot of Yankee fans in the comments. They were like, "Oh, well, it's Joe Ryan. What do you expect?" I'm like, "You expect to win? It's the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
or at least to play yourself in
Yeah,
close enough and then be able to eat at their bullpen later on because
Yeah.
because again and this is another thing, and this is probably what made me most upset about yesterday. Not necessarily that, not just that we lost against a Joe Ryan start and didn't get to the bullpen, whatever, but this team, this meaning the Twins, was notorious for how much they ripped their bullpen to shreds and some of the other parts of their team to shreds at the trade deadline. This team is not a shell of its former self. This team is like a carcass of its
they're
former
bad.
self.
They
Yeah,
are
Joe
bad.
Ryan is lucky to still be there. It's
Well,
just
I don't know. Well, I don't know
Red
how
Sox
lucky
fell
he is.
through.
I don't know how lucky he is now.
Well, not
But
lucky, but I mean,
yeah,
lucky
but
for the Twins.
yeah, but so that was like again, I would feel a little bit different perhaps if it was, oh, okay, it was Joe Ryan and then it was Griffin Jacks, Joan Duran, and whatever the other guy's name was.
Yeah.
If it were
Yeah.
that, I might feel a little bit differently. This was, this was this was Joe Ryan, and then 95% of those guys in the bullpen would be on most good teams would be in AAA right now.
Yep.
So like
It was Joe Ryan and friends.
yeah, Joe Ryan and friends. That's a nicer way to put it than I was going.
They won game 3 off the power of friendship.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's Mr. Rogers' neighborhood over there. But anyway, so Jay, I'm sorry, I don't know if I gave you a chance to kind of wrap your thoughts up on
and we've covered a lot of it. So the one difference I'll say, Mick, even if we did sweep, I still wouldn't be optimistic, and it's partly for the reasons that we're talking.
Please say that again. I didn't hear you.
I said even if we did sweep,
optimistic?
even if we did sweep the Twins, I still wouldn't be optimistic about us, right?
Okay.
And it's because of that Houston series. I remember we're, I don't want to say we're dealing with the worst Houston team of the ones that we have faced, but they're not.
Definitely ain't the best one.
Huh?
Definitely ain't the best one.
It definitely isn't the best one. They're looking at they were earlier this season looking at possibly being the 3 seed. I mean, where they've been 2s and 1s before. So I wasn't, wild about going into Minnesota. Partially, yes, we do beat up on Minnesota, even though I think last year we might have lost the season series.
Mhm.
But that's neither here nor there. This is this year. But Scoop, you're raising the points that I've been raising to my other more optimistic Yankee fans. My thing is just like, okay, yeah, you faced Joe Ryan, but you beat up on the other pitchers. But what are you going to do in the postseason? It's not like they're going to be throwing out their 3, 4, and 5 pitchers. You are going to be facing, like at the time when we were on pace to face Seattle as a wild card team.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine we match up against a team like Seattle, where you've got Castillo, Gilbert, and Wu in a 3-game set.
Yeah.
Crochet almost did a complete game shutout against us.
Yep.
Houston, again, we didn't face their best. I don't think we faced their best pitchers. Or did we? I don't know. There's a blur.
We had like one game, I think, of Valdez. But
I can't think.
Yeah.
No, I think when Houston sent out their pitchers, they weren't sending their best.
Yeah, they weren't. And then you're gonna have to see You're probably gonna have to see the Blue Jays.
Yep.
They made us look stupid. They've made us look stupid all year. You definitely don't want to see Detroit, where you'd have to see Scooble. You are going to face one of the two. If you have any longevity in the postseason, you are going to see a potential Cy Young Award winner. And the problem is the same problem every year. It's the inconsistency.
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah.
I did a look. I don't think that's a sentence, but I took a look going into before this show because I was trying to figure out, okay, we see what the problems are. And I wanted to get more of a sense of, okay, why are these things happening over this season? So I did a look I looked at some of our batted ball numbers, but moreover, what I did a real dive into was our high leverage numbers, because that's what we always talk about, right? How we hit in high leverage, how we perform in high leverage. And I looked not just going back to June 13th or May 29, whatever. I looked at the entire season. there are 10 players who have taken at least 20 plate appearances for us in high leverage this year. And it's the guys that you would expect. And the 3 guys who have a weighted runs created plus of average or more in those situations are Trent Grisham, Anthony Volpe, and Jazz Chisholm.
Wow.
Jesus.
Those are the 3 guys. And the fact that Volpe's on there astonishes me. But
you know how I feel.
Again, I don't care for batting average, but I'm just going to use it in this situation to talk about the other 7 guys. In these situations, Aaron Judge, 276. It's not bad. His slugging numbers are weighing him down a little bit. Ben Rice, 200. Giancarlo Stanton, 211. That does surprise me. Austin Wells, 188. Cody Bellinger, 220. Jason Dominguez, 148. Paul Goldschmidt, 133. So this has been a significant thing. And what's crazy to me is that it's not a huge strikeout issue. Jason Dominguez and Giancarlo Stanton have high strikeout rates. Nobody else does in these situations. And it's a lot of we're kind of struggling a little bit with the line drives thing. That's been a problem that we've had. And I'm going to parlay that into a second because I'm going to do a thing about Giancarlo Stanton real quick. But it's just, I looked at some of those numbers and again, when you look at the actual high leverage numbers, it starts to put a lot of things more into perspective because you start looking at some of these guys' offensive numbers in general or at baseline, and you start thinking, oh, why are these teams struggling to score sometimes or whatever? Because again, we've talked about the pitching, we talked about the defense, but when it's becoming the bats, that's a significant problem. I mean, they're all significant problems, but you know what I mean. The Yankees this season, of those guys, they have 10 home runs in those situations. 7 of them are from either Volpe or Grisham. The other 8 guys have combined for 3 home runs in high leverage situations. And, again, we can have comments about, well, they're too reliant on the home run or whatever. Whether they are or not, they're not getting the home run in these situations. They're not. And, I know we've had conversations about, whether they're hitting the ball, whether they're undercutting the ball too much, whether they're not getting, they're not lining up the swings right, whatever and I'm about to get in on that in a second because I got some things to say on that topic, particularly with regard to Giancarlo Stanton. But it just when you start looking at that, that's, and I know that people say that these numbers are not necessarily that they're random, but that these numbers have a lot of variability year to year, and that's true. But still, like at that point, that's not a At that point, that's not a that's not an individual player's thing. There's something fundamentally about their inability to produce offensively in those situations. And then I'll point this out. With the exception of Volpe, the other guys who have and also I'm sorry, Ryan McMahon also he didn't have enough plate appearances, but Ryan McMahon also was an above average one. But let's look at those 4 guys: Volpe, Chisholm, Grisham, and McMahon. 3 of those guys just came over to New York. Those guys were not developing their swings and their game with the Yankees. So to me, that's even more pointing towards our development of our hitting. And I don't know if it's at the major league level, I don't know if it's at the minor league level, but that 3 of your 4 best hitters in that situation are guys that you just brought over from other organizations. That does catch my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Couple that with what Didi, what came out this week with Clint Frazier saying that Didi, when he was on a rehab assignment, said
I mentioned that on Wednesday. I mentioned that on Wednesday's show where for those who didn't hear it, Didi Gregorius, I think this was in 2019, but it was somewhere back 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
He was on a rehab assignment in the middle of the summer, and he was coming back, and he said, and I quote, "You would not believe some of this shit going on in our minor leagues." And basically what he was referring to is that there was very little emphasis on not just fundamentals, but there was very little emphasis on, approach at the plate or whatever, and just these different things that are emphasized going back to like 8U baseball and even sometimes younger. I don't know. I didn't play before 8U, but but fundamental things. And I know we keep saying the word fundamentals, and it's not just that, but it's certainly part of it. And it's just it and people will say, oh, the analytics, and I'm about to counter that in a second, because I don't like that counter argument. I'm going to give an example as to why. But it's the analytics have to go on top of the fundamentals. If you don't have the fundamentals down, then of course the analytics aren't going to help, because you're trying to throw it's like trying to throw sauce and cheese on your plate before you got the pasta down. Like it doesn't matter if you're trying to take your game to the next level if you don't have a game there to begin with. So there's a lot of that, and I make this segue. If you guys can just give me another moment here, because I really wanted to talk about this, and I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine the other day, and we were talking about an article that I had read. For those who don't have The Athletic, I don't recommend a ton of subscriptions for sports. I do recommend The Athletic, some of their best sports content across the board. Particularly love their baseball content. But I'm going to read a quick excerpt real quick from an article that was recently done from their baseball people about the recent turnaround of Giancarlo Stanton at the plate. And the quote starts, Stanton is currently posting career best numbers in his age 35 season. His current weighted runs created plus would surpass the number he posted in his 2017 National League MVP season with the Marlins. It is not a coincidence that Stanton is hitting the ball in the air more than he ever has before. Stanton said, "Better things happen when I get it in the air." He's right. Stanton has the highest average launch angle and the highest fly ball rate of his career in 2025. It's the ideal outcome for someone who can hit the ball 447 feet like he did in the fifth inning of Tuesday night's 9-1 Yankees win over the Minnesota Twins. Stanton finished 4 for 5, his first 4-hit game since August 24th, 2023. He has only and then it cuts off. But so it goes on that, and then we started getting into a conversation, and this is why I was using the numbers about high leverage, because the way I'm seeing people use statistics, particularly RBI, I have come to hate the RBI statistic, and I'm going to give you an example why. I gave this scenario to my buddy. You got player one. He goes to the plate 4 times with bases juiced. First guy hits a bases clearing double, or actually, you know what? We'll even say he hits a single, and he just got lucky that the guy on first happened to be a speed demon like Billy Hamilton. So he hits a single with bases loaded with a guy like Billy Hamilton on first. Then he hits the next 3 at bats he takes. He strikes out with the bases loaded every time. So he's 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts with the bases loaded and 3 RBI. Then another scenario, different player, 4 at bats with the bases loaded, gets a single 3 out of the 4 times and 1 strikeout. So 1 for 4 with 3 RBI and same number of RBI. These are not the same situation, or these are not equitable just because they have the same number of RBI. And that is harder and harder to deduce the more, when you're doing this over the course of a season and you're muddying the individual situation. That's why I prefer rate statistics to counted statistics, because give me the guy who came through 75% of the time, not the guy who got lucky because of who hit ahead of him.
Yeah.
So that's why. And when people say, how do you prefer analytics to traditional stats? This is a great example of why. I was just talking about the Stanton thing, where you talk about there is literally a range of launch angle and exit velo where you are there's 1 out of 2 chance that you're going to get a base hit just based on where you're hitting the ball and how hard you're hitting the ball. There's a range. It's 8 to 32 degrees launch angle, and it's 95 miles per hour or harder of exit velo. And I'm particularly mentioning those because people want to say, oh, these things are made up. Oh, these things don't matter. No, that is not the case. I know all numbers come from somewhere, but Giancarlo Stanton, like we're literally watching Giancarlo Stanton right now. He is literally telling us an example of, and that's why whenever I hear, and I don't mean to disrespect Brandon, because I know he has said this a couple times recently, and I'm not trying to discredit you in any way. But that's why when I hear the phrase in particular, "hit the ball on the ground," this is the fourth player I've heard on the Yankees say that's not true. It's him. It's been going back to Josh Donaldson. Y'all know I was a big Josh Donaldson fan. And then there were two others whose names are escaping me right now. But that's why when I talk about on this show, and when you hear me bring in numbers like this, it's because of this type of thing, and it's because yes, maybe but Ben Rice is another great example. How many times have we watched this year Ben Rice and we think that was a perfect swing, and he just got freaking rocked? So anyway, that's the end of what I've got to say. But when I saw that from Stanton and I had that conversation with my buddy, I had to share some of that, because I think when people discredit certain things that any of us say, or discredit, they hear a certain term and it automatically turns them off. Like, there are a reason why winning teams are using these numbers, using these but again, but that is not to say, like I said before, I'll go back to the pasta analogy. You can't be putting your sauce and cheese on an empty plate. You got to have the foundation there first. And now I'm making myself hungry. But but again, I'll kick this over to Jay afterward for the response, and then I'll kick it over to Brandon. But
no, dude, you hit it on the head for me. Honestly, I mean,
that's just. There's absolutely no way that I'm trying to discredit the importance of fundamentals, because that was never my intent. But again, if people are still teaching, hit the ball on the ground, it's like Josh Donaldson said, unless you're going to go out there and steal 80 bags a year like Billy Hamilton.
That's not going to, they don't pay you for exactly.
That's exactly what he said. They pay you for doubles. They pay you for homers. They don't pay you for ground balls. Yeah. And if people want to say, "Oh, it's become all about money," well, they're only paying you if you win. Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to double down and say, listen, everything from those two competing storylines about, how they're being taught in the minor leagues and the success of Stanton. Number one, it makes me think that we're almost wasting Stanton, as well as the other talent on the roster that we're wasting with this stupid, flawed strategy. And honestly, that's why it's getting tough for me to see success for this season. I mean, and by the way, I know I was talking a lot about the American League in terms of pitching. We're also going to have to match up to their hitting as well.
Yep.
And even if we do that, I was listening to Michael Kay a while ago saying, like, "Oh, are you afraid of anybody in the American League?" Unlike his opinion, I'm just like, yeah, I'm afraid of everybody in the American League right now.
Yeah.
And more than that, if we weaseled our way into the World Series again this year by some miracle, I'd be afraid of everybody in the National League.
Yeah.
The Brewers are still my pick to win it all. But, that's a rant that I'm going to say for the next episode.
That's going to be that's if, and this is something I said on yesterday's show, if it comes down to, let's say, the Red Sox or the Yankees against the Brewers in the World Series, especially if the Brewers win, that is going to create a fascinating wrinkle in the argument for a salary cap, because it is going to wildly discredit people who say you have to be a big market team in order to have a chance at winning. Yeah. It is going to wildly discredit that mentality, and in my opinion, blows a hole in the heart of 90% of the arguments for a salary cap.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, but before we can even talk about that, do you guys see the remaining schedule for like the last month that the Yankees have coming up?
Let me pull it up real quick. I know we're facing teams like
it's
Boston
brutal.
and St. Louis, but let me just pull it up real quick so I'm not talking out of my tail here.
It's legitimately, it's every team the Yankees are chasing. It's Detroit, it's Houston, it's Boston, it's the Blue Jays. Like,
I'm going to read everybody from here to September 1st real quick. Yeah. We've got road against the Cardinals, road against the Rays, home against the Red Sox, home against the Nationals, and road against the White Sox. So, God help me if we don't win both the Nationals and White Sox series, then cancel the last month of the season at that point. But no, I do think that the Cardinals Rays and Red Sox could be a good barometer, though. Go on. I'm not going to try and cut you off. I'm just giving that context.
And what's scary about you have a few, like, I think they have like what, I think it's like two or three White Sox series, even like the rest of the season.
Let me look at that real quick while you're talking.
I think they have another one late in the season.
I'm seeing one more after that.
But like so you've got, you have a couple series you should win against teams that are, and they're not in your division, what have you. But the majority of the last roughly 50 games of your schedule is against the AL East, which you have the worst record against out of all the teams in your division this year. You have a piss poor AL East record.
The fact that even the Orioles are better on the division than us really pisses me off.
Yeah.
And what you were just saying about the end of the season, this is our last 13 games. 2 series against the Orioles, 1 series against the Twins, 1 series against the White Sox.
Yeah.
If so help me God, we don't win at least 9 of those 13 games, that is horrendous.
Keep talking, guys. I'll be right back. Sorry. First, give me a second.
No, take your time, brother. Brandon, sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just trying to add context there.
And it's the last thing we'll talk about because we're already crossing the 2-hour mark. Crazy enough.
Holy Toledo! Thank you to everybody who's still on with us. Holy smokes!
Yeah, I think this is our longest show, but
close to it. I don't know if it's our longest, but close to it.
Yeah, but when you look at how grueling the schedule is for the Yankees, I mean, there's a couple of back-to-back series where they should win, 5 out of 6 or even sweep both if they could, but you are going to face the rest of this way. You are going to face the Tariq Skubals of the world. You're going to face probably Gausman again, who has kind of owned you as of late, especially this year. You've got, the Garrett Crochets of the world. Like, you have these guys that you are going to face pretty often the last month and a half of this season. And you haven't proven that you can hit them, and you haven't proven that you can beat any of these teams. So this is such a rough schedule outside of the 2 or 3 or maybe 4 series that they have against teams they should beat. The rest of those series are all tough series against teams that have given you problems the whole season long. So between that and the numbers you're laying out, certain hitters, like we were saying last show, certain hitters against the fastball. No one's hitting the 4-seam fastball well on this team, apparently.
The fact that we've got 3 guys, I can't remember who they are, but we got 3 guys who couldn't. It's one thing if it's like this team's like allergic to the either slider or something like that, apparently. But the fact that we've got 3 guys who can't hit a 4-seam fastball in the majors, none of whom are rookies.
That's not good.
It's not.
It's one thing for me if you've got a low batting average or if you're scuffling a little bit or if you're striking out a lot, but not being able to hit the fundamental pitch in baseball that you've been facing since you were in pull-ups, come on.
Yeah, and it's scary to think about this because, and here's why I always say, especially when Josh Donaldson was saying, you want to hit the ball in the air, you want to hit the ball hard, and I get all that, but there's also ways to do that. Like, not every hitter on your team needs to have, the whole exit velo, launch angle has to be the perfect,
Yeah. And that was also another one we had to do.
It's
a guide. It's like anything.
But it's like on this team, it feels like all these guys when they go up there, at least when we're like, Anthony Volpe's approach. There's times where they're throwing him sliders down and away, but they're still in the zone. It's not like it's down and away out of the zone. He's getting sliders that are spinning in the zone, but they're spinning down and away, and he's trying to pull the ball. You should never, at any level of baseball, when you see a pitch away, try to pull it. Try to get
you wait for it to get deep and push it the other way.
So it's like I wish we had a team full of right now of Cody Bellingers. We're talking about good approach. Cody Bellinger with 2 strikes shortens his approach. He extends the at bat by 4, 5, 6 pitches, and he either gets a hit, he walks, or he homers. So. That's what it feels like when watching him. Every at bat of his is a good at bat. I haven't seen one bad Cody Bellinger at bat this year. It feels like, And
The only thing I'll switch, I'll give you a different player. Trent Grisham would be the guy for me.
yeah, yeah, and
The guy has twice as many walks as strikeouts in high leverage situations.
yeah, like you got to have guys that okay, if they're not gonna get anything to hit, because a lot of times on high leverage, I've seen quite a few games this year where guys in high leverage, they're not giving them much to hit because they're afraid they're gonna hang something down the middle and they're gonna get crushed. So
Right.
but it's an important thing too. Like and this happens sometimes with a lot of these players. Like a Volpe or even a Jazz Chisholm. Don't chase out of this. Like, don't swing at balls in the dirt. If the guy's not giving you anything to hit, don't even offer until he throws you something that's like right down the middle. So it's like, this team kind of has a problem with certain pitches that they're taking versus not taking. They've got a problem with just getting a level swing to the ball.
We talked about it the other day. Remember, we talked about this team is like just not swinging, like literally not swinging at the highest rate in the American League.
Yeah, it's like you want to work the count, yes, but and it's happened a lot this year. Like that game against the Astros that they won against Valdez. Did you hit him? Yes. Yeah. He has a lower ERA. Yes, but you left a village and a half on the bases because you did not take advantage. You had him on the ropes and didn't finish him. So. And that's been a common theme a lot this year. They've had guys on the ropes the first inning or two, and then it ends up being a dogfight late in the game because they stop hitting the baseball. Then they start getting too patient, or they start trying to make the guy, work his pitch count. But you've got to take advantage at some point and hit the damn ball.
Yeah, like we're leading the league. At least we were when I looked at a day or two ago in walk rate, which is wonderful. Like in Moneyball, when they say, he gets on base a lot. Do I care if it's a walk or a hit? I agree with that. That being said, you're not going to get 4 walks back to back unless
exactly.
God knows who. Like I agree with the fact that if someone's getting on base, I don't care if it's a walk or a hit. That I agree with. But excuse me, unless you're facing what was the name of Charlie Sheen's character up there, Ricky Vaughn?
Ricky Vaughn, baby. Yeah, better just get some control before he kills somebody.
Yeah. Unless you're unless you're facing Ricky Vaughn up there, then you can't rely on 4 walks back to back to back to back. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's going to take if you don't get the ball off your damn shoulder.
Yeah.
The bat.
Yeah, I knew where you were going. It's just It's so tough because there's been plenty of innings this year where the Yankees have bases loaded, 1 out, bases loaded, no outs, and
don't remind me.
And they get either nothing or 1 run out of it, and I'm like, you should have had a 4-run inning if you guys would just get the bat off your shoulders. Like and your teammates, as they're passing the baton, they're relaying you signs, they're relaying you information. Mm-hmm. You're getting constant, on what this guy pitches. And the thing is, a lot of these times, this is late in the season. You've seen this guy pitch before. You know what he throws. So when you see a fastball down the middle, what are you staring at?
I 2 things real quick on that exact note. I have and I've been, I've been a defender of Anthony Volpe this season. I'm sure as hell going to be more of a defender of him after seeing those numbers against in high leverage situations. That being said, there was an instance, I think this was probably a month ago now. I don't know what kind of pitch it was because I'm struggling to remember. All I know is that this pitch was not right down Broadway, but it wasn't necessarily in Los Angeles either. And he he stared at it like he was like, I'm not going to use that analogy, but he stared at it like a sunset. And I was just like, huh? How? Like again, I get being patient. I would, in a lot of cases, I would rather a guy be patient. Like I get running up the count and running up the pitch count and all of that. I like, and like they said, take the at bats off the 10th and 11th pitcher by the end of the series. I get all that. And I support that. That being said, first of all, and this all comes back to one, kind of a central point. This team, even when they do it differently, they've changed it a couple times, but no matter how they change their approach, they stay one-dimensional with their approach. A few years ago, it was the 3 true outcome thing. Now that we're actually one of the lower strikeout teams in the American League now, but now it's uber plate discipline to the point where you're not aggressive enough. You're passive at the plate almost, which I'm sorry. When you've got, in my opinion, one of the two greatest right-handed hitters in modern baseball history on your team, when Giancarlo Stanton is your second best freaking power hitter, you should not, like, certain guys be like, if Anthony Volpe wants to be patient, sure, do your thing. If Jazz Chisholm, but you were talking about signs the other day, have you seen what he's been doing on the base paths recently? He's my mom's favorite player, and she loves watching that stuff. But like, if those guys who are going to get on base and then be able to make things happen with their legs on the base paths, fine. Trent Grisham, another guy, even though he's been explosive with the bat in big situations recently. But Judge, Stanton, and again, they've been hitting well, so I'm not actively going against them. I'm just saying guys with that, guys like that. You've got guys who should be exploding with the bat, not guys who are just just going up there and expecting the pitch. That is so passive. You're basically expecting the pitcher to make a mistake and give it to you. No, go up there and freaking take it.
Yeah, or you know what they say. If you, they always say too, if you see a guy that has a lot of movement on his pitches, or if it's a lot of downward, sideways movement, whatever it is, what do? You move up in the box so you can catch it out in front.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that? I almost said Ben Rice. Holy crap. Pete Rose. Two very different players. Have you ever seen that clip where he was on? I think it was MLB Network or Fox Sports or something, and he says, "When I was in a slump, I did 6 things: up in the box, back in the box, choke up on the bat, choke down on the bat. There were 2 other things that I'm forgetting. Closer to the plate, away from the plate. That was the other 2. Like, he says, don't change your swing. That's what got you to the big leagues. Like, now again, I don't think every pitcher or every player should try to be Pete Rose or Tony Gwynn. Like, I'm not saying we should go back to the dead ball era like some people are. Especially not with these people on our team. But like, there is like legitimacy to that, and it's astonishing to me that and people are like, well, Boone's got to go. You really think if you fire Aaron Boone and you bring in, let's say, the guy that I've been calling for if we did fire Boone, which has been, I think you guys heard me say this, David Ross. That's been the guy that I basically said he's my guy if we make a managerial change. You really think putting David Ross in there or Carlos Beltran in there is gonna? No. If 6 years ago, when Boone was, Boone probably hadn't even changed his address to the Bronx yet. You think that back all that time, if Didi was already saying in the minor leagues, mind you, which Boone has no control over, you wouldn't believe some of the blank going down in our minor leagues. You think firing Boone is gonna impact that? What?
It's systemic.
And it's systemic, and that's why. And quite frankly, I'm not sure how much moving Cashman off would do that either. Because just because you're moving off Cashman, that doesn't mean some of the player development results, as we've talked about recently. Some of the guys that we moved at the deadline, we moved undrafted players for legit MLB talent. So clearly, there's been some recent positive breaks in some recent positive development in the player development. So clearly, some of this stuff in some ways is coming together, but there is so much clear disarray in the fundamental, and I don't mean fundamental like in baseball terms. I mean the fundamental, like the crux of our minor leagues. That again, I don't think, even if you move both Cashman and Boone, I'm not sure. I feel like you're just, I don't know. Pretend I said the name of an animal that you cut its head off and it just comes back.
Snake.
That's what I was trying to go for here. Snake. Thank you. Anyway, Jay, sorry, I kind of yapped there for a while.
Oh no, I was done talking.
Okay, well, I never know. We're all from either New York or New Jersey, so typically none of us are ever done talking. All right, we've gone well into now the 3rd hour. So, what do you say? Are you guys good to kind of wind this to a close a little bit, and then we'll hit it hard next week?
Absolutely.
All right. I see we still have several people on here. I just want to say thank you to those who stuck it out with us. for all this time. This was not scheduled, just because we moved it to Thursday night, that does not mean we are suddenly taking over your entire evening every week. But I want to express my gratitude for that. Brandon, thanks again as always. You've been on for 3 months now, and Jay, I mean, I don't know, there's just what you've brought to this show. I think it's 3 times now we've been on together, all 3 of us, but. Holy smokes! Like some of my favorite shows that have happened for What's the Scoop have been the 3 of us together, and I'm really excited to see where this thing goes. Really excited to hopefully savor the Eagles season together. Really excited to suffer the rest of the Yankee season together, and all that being said, guys, we will be back next Thursday, August 21st. 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Same Scoop time, same Scoop channel. And for the first time, I can say Scoop, Brandon, and new member Jay Cruger.
Out.